What is going on, team? Back here at OPEX Gatwick, myself and my lovely camera assistant Danny. Say hi, Danny. You made it! You're in! The other side of the camera for once. We are just waiting, pitch black outside. It's about 6:45. We're waiting for Harry Simonis, founder and CEO of the amazing clothing brand Tailored Athlete. I've done a few bits and bobs with Tailored Athlete over the last kind of 6-9 months. Harry's a good friend of mine, and we are going to basically kind of take a deep dive in his life of how kind of a busy, young, very, very successful entrepreneur keeps fit and healthy. We're just waiting for him to turn up now. We are a few minutes early. We're all set up upstairs. He'll be here, and then we'll have a chat. Harry Simonis, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Now
for
we're
having
going to take
me.
a deep dive into the recesses of your mind, childhood traumas, future pet. No,
There we go.
So what I thought I'd do, mate, is get you on for a quick video. Jumping on the channel, I am intrigued as to, basically, I see you in a position that a lot of people who might be about 10 years older are in the position of, which is you love training, you love working out, you love staying healthy, but the way the modern Western world works, it's so flipping stressful. And there's so much stuff to do generally that life just doesn't really let up and give you time off. It does the opposite. It kind of swallows any free time up. So what I thought I'd do is kind of ask you a couple of questions today, see what you're doing with it at the moment. And then after this, we'll have a quick bicep session as well.
Biceps.
Obviously, just biceps. Firstly, mate, if you can, obviously I kind of know the story, but for the guys watching now, if you can kind of just give a brief overview of Tailored Athlete and how that lovely clothing brand came to be.
So it all started when I was 18. I went to my college prom and obviously had to wear like a dress shirt and a blazer, but nothing would really fit. And I've only been working out at that point for like 2 years. So I wasn't really that big, but I had like broader shoulders and a chest and a smaller waist. Couldn't find anything and like went into M&S and they're like, yeah, you need to get it custom made or it's going to basically look like that. So that was kind of the light bulb moment for me. Didn't really do anything about it until I went to uni and to study international business, but uni wasn't for me, so I dropped out. I wanted to do business and learn it by doing it. So basically wrote out the business plan. The uni I went to was Loughborough, so a very like sports focused uni. Yeah. And I just stood outside the gym and surveyed everyone going in there. Like, do you find it hard to get clothes that fit? Like, what's the biggest problem?
Just off your own back, you just kind of wrote a couple of questions.
Yeah. It was literally on a piece of paper, like proper basic. And then from that, I kind of developed the first collection of shirts, which took a very long time because I was obviously 18 with no experience and no contacts. And failed and applied the learnings and launched 4 shirts in December 2016. And then from there, we've expanded into jeans, loungewear, t-shirts, polos, trousers, and many more products. So it's been not an easy ride. That's a very top line summary, but we basically design clothes to fit guys who work out.
I like the philosophy that you went to uni to learn about business, and within about 5 minutes you were like, this is too slow, I'm just going to start now and just kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
How long are you actually doing the course for before you kind of chucked the towel in and then decided to start your own?
So it was 2 weeks of freshers, and then it was like 1 week of lectures, and I was just walking out of the lectures. When it did come to my class was graduating, I just remember that summer, like everyone was graduating with like, 60 grand a debt or so. And at that point, TA was very successful after 3 years or so at that point. Probably one of the best decisions I made early on. So.
Cool. Well, obviously, we've spoken at length about kind of different options and different ideas, and the fact that obviously you worked your way into fashion because you basically identified a problem and then created a business around trying to find that solution. With the way that, because obviously the world changes so quickly now compared to how it did maybe 50 years ago and 55 years ago, it's almost identical, whereas a 5-year gap now is huge, right? It's an unrecognisable universe that we live in. So if there was someone who is anywhere between, so guy or girl, anywhere between kind of like 16 and 40, and they are wanting to start their own business, what kind of advice or direction would you give them? Would you suggest e-commerce? Would you suggest fashion? What kind of, what advice would you give these people?
I think having gone through the last 5-6 years of everything with the business experience I've had, I think the main thing is to really, probably not what people want to do, is just figure out what you actually want from it. Do you want just freedom of time, or do you want a certain amount of income? Do you want to work on something that you're passionate about and love and do? Like, once you get super clear on that and granular, I think the right business models and types will present themselves. If I just wanted, say, very quickly to get like a cash-rich monthly income, coaching, as you know, we've discussed previously, like high ticket coaching might be a better route than say e-com, where especially e-com with long lead times and high MOQs in fashion, where it can take years until you can get to a level where you can pay yourself like a similar amount as coaching. I think just get super clear on what you're actually looking for, and then you'll find the business model that aligns to that.
So reverse engineer what you're going to do from kind of the sponsoring question of, well, what do I want my life to look like? What do I really want? And then reverse engineer it from there.
Definitely.
As opposed to just what is going to be the most profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of an increasingly popular idea, I think, even in the entrepreneurial world and the world of kind of personal development. Gary Vee's obviously a big guy on this, and he's like, you have to choose. Happiness kind of has to be at the epicenter of all of your decisions on that.
100%.
Otherwise, you might end up making more money, but you're going to end up so flipping stressed and miserable that your experience of everything is just going to be kind of that little bit worse, if you know what I mean.
No, exactly. And even to the point where I've come across people in the last year where they're like in their early 40s and they've realised that the business they're in doesn't align with their true kind of purpose or morals, and they're literally shutting down 7-figure businesses and pursuing something that is more aligned. And it's, if you kind of do that pre-work and get that understanding and clarity from yourself, it just makes everything a lot easier.
What's your training split looking like right now?
I just chest, back, shoulders. Oh, nothing.
Never train.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just, I'll do like back, full day focus on back and say biceps. The next day focus on chest and triceps, and then shoulders. I usually have like 2 days on, 1 day off at the minute, just getting back into it properly. So I'll just rotate that. I haven't done a lower leg session yet for a while.
I've never met a bloke who doesn't train legs with such big legs. It is so annoying. I mean, linking the two, kind of your training, your health to the business stuff, do you find that your tolerance to the amount of stuff that you can do, like your tolerance to training volume, is less when you're busier and you're more stressed? Because it kind of makes sense that it wouldn't be, right?
If I'm travelling, yes. If I'm not travelling and I'm living in the same place, it actually probably increases it.
Really?
So I have this kind of pent up anger or frustration, and I just love to have a really good session, and I feel so different afterwards.
What now does the gym do for you and kind of mean for you? Because for every guy, I think, and obviously a lot of the guys that buy Tailored Athlete stuff and that follow a typical kind of bro split, they're a little bit young, because bro split is like everyone's introduction to fitness, right? So 16-year-old guys aren't likely to be super stressed with work and family. Right. So for them, the gym would be, the main objective of the gym would be aesthetics. Like they want to change the way they look. For you now, in addition, like, because we are all, I say all the time in a lot of my other videos, we're all recreational bodybuilders to a point, because everyone wants to look better from their training. For sure. But in addition to an aesthetic change, what else is your objective for the gym? So it sounds like for you at the moment it's a bit stress relief.
Yeah, literally. I mean, until year 3 of training, aesthetics was probably my goal. Now aesthetics is an afterthought. Like it is mental clarity and just how I feel after a session. If I don't train for a week, I feel just like agitated. So it's that mental clarity, and then I feel like I've got to the point now, training for like 6 years, I kind of know what I need to do to cut, like lose body fat, or if I want to gain some size, which is quite rare now because I don't really want to get much bigger. I'm kind of happy with my current physique. So it's kind of the mental clarity of the whole. Just a
reset button for your brain.
Yeah, It just allows me to focus more on work and just feel a bit calmer.
Make the time after that more productive with a clearer head.
Yeah, definitely.
Walk us through the future of Tailored Athlete over the next kind of like 6 months all the way up to like 5 years, kind of different ranges, different items. What's going to be going on?
I mean, right now there's a lot of internal changes going on within the company. I'm still learning an awful lot this far into it, and kind of all those lessons, applying them to look at the next 3-5 years, you know. So we're kind of setting ourselves up to start increasing the amount of product we offer to a monthly or bi-weekly basis. So our menswear will be massively expanded. In 2022, you can expect to see like our suits coming out, plus much broader seasonal collections.
Suits?
Basically. Yeah, it's a naughty little insight there.
Fantastic. Heard it here first. This is an exclusive. Okay, wicked. And that's next year? That's 2022?
Yes, yeah, we've already fitted a sample, which was very good. That's from the menswear point of view, and then we'll also be introducing women's next year, which is we've been asked for many, many times. So that's very exciting, because I think it's a huge market. That then we'll be looking into introducing sportswear. Following that, so probably 2023. It's just building out those collections. The longer term from there is looking at kind of pop-ups and like kind of physical events and experiences with TA. Like we'd love to do them in the big cities where our customers are, because we have some really incredible customers, and it'd be just great to get a lot of them into the same room and just have those conversations and see where that takes us. But that's kind of the gist of it in the next 5 years.
One of the things you asked, mate, is, so in addition to kind of gym sessions now being like a really, really good reset for your brain, obviously you're traveling a lot, you're running kind of a very busy business. What else have you started doing over the last few years to help look after your kind of your general health, whether it be physical health, mental health, kind of clarity of thought, anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of changes I made. First thing was seeing a therapist. I see one quite frequently, and that just having that person who knows me now after the time we work together, and just having that check-in and helping me process my thoughts.
How frequently is frequently?
Weekly.
Weekly.
So
okay.
Just process a lot of things from the past or like what I'm going through. Huge help for me. I've had also a mentor who helped me a lot in that, because they were just literally someone looking at my life from the outside in, and that was like huge. But apart from that, I meditate daily and I journal daily, and that, like, if I meditate for 30 minutes and then spend 15 minutes journaling, it just changes. It changed who I was when I started doing it. Whatever's going on in your life, you just kind of, again, process and write it down, and then everything's kind of like calm, I find, for me personally anyway. But the combination of those three and then working out on top of that is just huge to help like keep my head straight.
So in regards to the journal, so the meditation is for 30 minutes, and then the 15-minute journaling, are you journaling about kind of reflections, insights from the meditation?
Yeah, sometimes I'll kind of like, I guess when I write it out, like conclude it or summarize it in words, or kind of ask myself questions, or if there's an action from it, just kind of have that all in my journal. Other times I've tried, like, I'll list, I love questions, because I feel like questions will just pull out the answers from you. So I have a spreadsheet full of questions that I just find very powerful, and I'll just answer like a question, say, after meditating. And that, again, is just, I find great as well. So kind of varies at like what time I'm going through.
That's really, really good, man. And it's just, I think it's increasingly powerful when you have men that are considered to be successful and doing well and in shape and conventionally alpha, be so completely open about the fact that, at the moment I'm seeing a therapist and speak to them once a week, and it's been game changing for the way in which I experience life on a day-to-day basis and making things a lot better.
100%.
I think one thing, having got to know you the way that I have over the course of this year, I'd say one thing for me that I've experienced that's very, very impressive is you seem completely, obviously you won't kind of go into too much detail now, but completely unfazed by big numbers and finances that would basically just scare the shit out of most people. And I think that's probably been, I would predict that would be part of the reason for your success, is that you are unfazed by this. But one of the things that a conversation that we had a while back, which I remember being really, really interesting, is I was saying to you, you're only 24, business is valued at X, you're doing that, you've got a team of this amount. Has this kind of exceeded your wildest expectations? And you were just kind of cool, calm and collected and be like, to be honest, by this point, I actually thought we'd be bigger. Yeah. And that was like a real insight into your mindset, that you were clearly, even at day dot when you were out there with, doing your surveys on these Loughborough bodybuilders on the back of like a fucking receipt or whatever, you still even then predicted that it would be, a huge kind of empire.
I think what happens, and I see in a lot of kind of e-com companies, is usually you'll tend to see your first 12 to 24 months, you'll have this crazy growth that you don't kind of experience in more local businesses or different business models. And everyone kind of assumes that growth's going to continue. But as soon as you get to like the low 7-figure mark, it's very then hard to kind of get to high 7 figures, 8 figures. It becomes like a far more about brand and kind of bigger things than just Facebook ads and a right product market fit. In the early days, that momentum taking us up, was kind of expecting that to be 5 years' time.
On a graph, you thought that line would keep going at the same angle.
Yeah, or it may have slowed, but still kind of be considerable. And we had I think it was our 4th year, it was quite a tough year with a lot of lessons. Obviously the pandemic hit, but that's not an excuse. It was just, there was other few fundamental issues in the business. And I kind of look at it now that I'm so grateful I've gone through everything I have, because the experiences and the skill sets it's given me is just, I'm super, super excited for the next business venture I focus on, because I feel like I'll just be so much more well-equipped than if it was smooth sailing. But So we're working there and we're getting there, but it's just a bit slower than I imagined initially, I guess.
So your training now is like split routine, like bro split?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. And I imagine that would be pretty common for people who buy TA garments.
Yeah, in a way, I'm sure. I feel like a lot of CrossFit people do as well.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. I was going to say, for you personally, what other kind of... So obviously I mentioned a minute ago, I do think that kind of the classic bro split is like the gateway into the fitness industry for pretty much every fitness enthusiast. Because you Google it, of like, how do I train? It's always the first thing that's going to come up. For you personally, what other kind of like training styles and approaches have you messed around with?
It's very hypertrophy based. I did do 5x5.
Okay, nice.
For like 6 months, and that made me super strong.
Yeah.
I have played a bit with CrossFit, very intense. And then I got into quite a lot of running, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were saying.
That was brilliant, and I'm very excited to do the same again when I go back to Mexico. So.
Have you ever like messed around with any strongman work?
No.
I think you'd be interested in that, even though a lot of your stuff has been hypertrophy based. I think that you're built naturally in a way that I think you'd respond very well to strength training. And obviously, I reckon if you do hypertrophy stuff, you'll get bigger.
Yeah.
But I reckon if you start doing strength work, you get very strong. It's obviously barbell stuff is one paradigm of strength stuff, but things like proper heavy pushes, pulls, drags, carries, the kind of the strongman stuff. Obviously, generally people think of strongman, they think of world's strongest man athletes. Right. Hugely high body fat percentage, but strongman. Most people who do strongman training I know are actually super lean. Yeah. And the training itself is a lot of fun, and I think it's something that naturally you've kind of been built for quite well.
I've actually got to the point now where I do want to explore a lot more sports, a lot more styles of training. Traveling around and moving around makes it super difficult. But yeah, I think in the next year or so I'm going to really kind of choose one and go down that route. So it'll be interesting to see what that is.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what you are kind of attracted to, again, as with you, with what you just said a minute ago, aesthetics kind of being still part of the objective, but a bit more of an afterthought and just like a happy side effect. Yeah. But the main thing being like a bit of flipping stress release and a clearing of your mind. It'll be interesting to see whether or not other super mindful, super intense workouts, but that are quite short, actually offer you even more of that.
Definitely. No, exactly. It'll be interesting. I do crave a team sport as well. So that's something I've really missed out on the last few years. But hopefully if I find something that combines both and allows a bit of travel, then that'll be the ideal world.
Interesting that you mentioned the pandemic. One of the things I was going to look into is my business in the world of kind of like in-person group exercise. One of the bad things is that it was shut down, but kind of one of the good things, one of the saving graces is that there was no other option because we were literally told this is what has to happen. Everyone kind of put on furlough. Everyone kind of different government grants and schemes and stuff. But at least the option of having to try and create a way out were fairly limited and got taken out of our hands. Yeah. With you guys, I mean, how did you adapt at that point? But both in terms of I'm intrigued as to someone who, at the age of 24, is not only running this business, but is also leading a team of people older than you, and being in an environment like that where people kind of turn to you and look to you as a younger man, but still as their leader for leadership and insight and direction. What did you think? Were there any kind of like shit yourself moments at that time, or did you instantly have a kind of a clear vision of what you needed to do with the company? What kind of went through your head?
Yeah, it was a very, very difficult period for us. We're kind of caught on the back foot. We're heavy in formal wear, and obviously the pandemic, everyone working from home, it doesn't really tend to formal wear. So we tried to pivot, but we didn't pivot hard enough. And when we eventually did pivot a bit later into the pandemic, it really went our way. But that first 9 to 12 months was very challenging. A lot of big decisions I had to make, and I just remember literally taking it day to day. And that's because I was in such a difficult kind of place mentally, and with the business itself, it was a very kind of dark and challenging time. But what I can say is the team that's the reason we came through it. We came together. We were a small team at that point, and we actually lost a few members due to the pandemic, but we really came together, and that taught us so much about ourselves and about the business. And I'm kind of happy it happened in a way, because it made us 10 times stronger, more efficient, more smart, and we came through a completely different business, So, yeah, I mean, there's some people in the team where I couldn't have done it without them. They've been there with every single step of the way, and it's kind of, I feel like that's what has allowed us to do what we've done. It's quite funny. I've always imagined, like, I want to be tested to that extreme, whether it's a recession or I didn't think like a pandemic and a recession would come at once, but it did, and yeah, we've come through stronger. So
me and Danny were talking recently. We've done a couple of like personality tests and neurotransmitter tests, and there's this thing in one of the neurotransmitter tests that talks about something called the warrior complex, and it's like you need a certain level of stress to actually ever take action.
Yeah.
So some people that have a certain personality type might be a little bit more kind of introverted and withdrawn and quite timid and have a very, very low threshold for that stress. Whereas people with a warrior complex, they're like the people who, like Daddy has a degree in English literature and basically started writing her dissertation about 2 days before, and then just smashed a couple of Red Bulls and kind of cracked on from there.
Love that.
And it's like some people require that level of and really thrive off it, and it's like that's the only time they feel kind of alive. And other than that, it's almost really underwhelming. So it sounds like you have kind of a similar thing.
I definitely think in aspects I am like that. I do think it's also quite easy to get addicted to the stress.
Interesting.
Which, can be a good thing but a bad thing as well. So, I think it just kind of makes you act.
So one of the things I was going to say is, with all of the different places that you've been, obviously you travel a lot for work and kind of be free and to experience kind of other cultures in different places, but being physically fit is such an important part of the brand, because it's literally called Tailored Athlete, and obviously a big important part of kind of your life and for you with that mental reset that we've been talking about. Where would you say, of all the different places that you've travelled and kind of lived temporarily, has got either the best individual gym or just generally speaking, generalities, the best kind of fitness scene?
Dubai is huge focus around fitness, especially recently. So that's good. It definitely wasn't my type of place. So I mean, I would be biased. I'd just go to Barcelona. I bloody love that city, and the gyms there are really, really good. Where I've trained. So it kind of depends what you're looking for, I think. But Dubai has huge gyms with every bit of exercise equipment you can find. So
they just don't have a budget, do they? Like, money's like no object there. But Barcelona, you're saying as well. Barcelona's good for that.
I just find Barcelona because it has like fitness, the healthy food, like the sunshine, the beach, the culture. Like for all round, it's great. But for training, it's just being in a warmer place as well. I think it helps, And the gym there that I was training at was really good. So there's quite a lot of those gyms around as well.
Yeah, nice. In terms of like you as a person, and obviously this is a very difficult question to ask people of any age, especially someone in their kind of early to mid-20s, having to do what you've done, having to experience that amount of stress, having to lead a team of people older than you, having to accept and really acknowledge that you're flipping responsible for other people's income and them paying their mortgage, etc. With all the stresses and the growth and the successes and everything, through the whole kind of process of starting a company and building it up and running it while it's big, how do you think you've changed as a person, and have you seen any qualities? Are there any outlooks on life or business that you think back to and are almost embarrassed that you used to have, and are there any things that you're super proud of now that you're like, I know that I'm more humble, I know that I'm more patient? How do you think you as an individual and your qualities have changed?
There's a lot I could go into here. There's a lot of different answers, I think. It's quite funny. The one thing with me, especially starting out so young, is everyone would say I'm quite naive. But I feel like that really played up to, like, it was a good thing for me because, like, for example, Tailored Athlete, when, like, just changing a few measurements on a shirt to make it true muscle fit and pairing it with the right fabrics. Obviously, it's a bit more complex than that as the whole business, but the product, everyone was like, oh, why wouldn't everyone do it? Like, it's not going to work. But, like, when I just see it like that, or, like, for example, we broke into the US from day one, and there's a lot of people I meet now who find that very impressive. Like, how have you been able to grow, like, a global company? so quickly, and it's just like, to me, it made sense. Like, there's so many customers there, we're just going to sell straight to the US. So it's just like those things where I don't see it as the complex scenarios as people say it is. It's just that kind of work to the strengths. But I think aside from that, going through everything I have the last 6 or so years, it's definitely shaped me to who I am. I think one of the best qualities about myself is always being so open and listening to everyone. From day one, really, I'll listen to everyone, and then from all that information, like, internalize it and make my own best decision for what suits me. I guess I am very humble. Like, I don't really talk about the numbers TA doing or how many people work for me or whatnot. Like, that stuff doesn't faze me. It's a lot bigger than that. It's more about the purpose and the why and kind of just the deeper things. So obviously those two things go hand in hand, and it kind of plays to my advantage, because a lot of people want to kind of help me and mentor me to get to the next levels. And that's just been a huge kind of advantage for the last few years. So I guess one more thing to that point is, everyone does say, like, being so young and going through everything you have been and all the experiences you have, like, do you feel like you're not living like your true 20s as you should? But it was quite funny the other day, me and my mate were talking about that, and if you just like look at the last 3 months I've had, like, I'm kind of doing 10x more than someone in their 40s would be doing. Like, I'm just kind of going after every opportunity, and this is like personally, socially, like professionally, and really living life to the fullest. And I do think it does take a wear and tear on my body, but it's just I just can't say no sometimes, and I want to experience everything to the fullest and live to the fullest. So we'll see how I am in another 5-10 years, because it may be a negative.
See, your knees and your liver are doing after a bit more hard. But it just sounds like you're hungry for life, though. I think that's wicked.
Yeah.
And the humility thing, I think with what you're saying, that it's not about talking to people about how, and I see this huge swing in the general narrative of the kind of the pro pseudo entrepreneurial world, with encouraging people to Simon Sinek's book Start With Why, and don't focus on the numbers, don't brag about what you're making or blah, 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 how many people are working for you, as you said. And I think that stuff is very quote unquote kind of popular.
Yeah.
And a lot of people try to adhere to that, but they're still slightly cocky. But I can kind of speak, obviously, the fact that you and me have become quite close this year, I know definitely that humility is 100% real. And if you had an hour's interaction with someone, you literally wouldn't give a shit if they left thinking you worked at flipping Marks and Spencer's.
No.
And that's very refreshing, because it's 100% genuine. And I like the naivety thing, that in a way it's wicked that that's kind of been flipped into an advantage, that you don't have other people thinking you're quote unquote naive. But for you, the reason that actually worked as a pro is because you didn't have this filing cabinet in your brain of, no, I can't do this because X. You just didn't have that, so you were like, well, let's just do it then. I think,
it's exactly that. Because the other big thing, obviously, that's taken me through this kind of experience as a whole is my work rate and my work effort. Whenever I would do something, I'd always want to do it to the best of my ability. And with work, like, I feel like when I have kind of spoken to consultants or mentors or opened up to some people about how much responsibility or work I do have, it's kind of mind-blowing, like, the amount I'm managing. And that's not like obviously bragging or anything, that's just saying like it's a lot to carry, and I think just not giving up for this amount of time has seen me through and got me to where I am now. And it's just a lot of people, I feel like the quote is like, it's the person who doesn't give up and always continues through all the challenges and whatnot will be successful. So I think it's just having that drive and hunger for success or achieving what I want that has helped massively. So that's another thing I think.
That's wicked. So Dubai, I have been to a couple of times, and I will definitely agree that the fitness scene there is awesome.
Yes.
And I do think a part of it is the fact it's just the precision and kind of the attention to detail. Everything is immaculate. The aircon is never going to break. It's going to be flipping amazing everywhere. And they've got no budget. I haven't actually done that many. I've been to Barcelona, but I think the only place I trained was, they've got like this calisthenics rig on the beach somewhere.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of the only place I went. So in terms of like the kind of the fitness scene, those two places work for you. In regards to staying physically fit, but also, as we've spoken about, kind of doing what you need to do to maintain your mental health and your clarity of thought, where in the world that you have been and that you have experienced would you say that is most conducive with you in particular feeling physically fit, mentally well, clear, kind of like emotionally anchored and just generally happy? So of all the places that you've been, because again, only being 24, but having a very kind of, running a successful business, where that you've been, would you say is most conducive with kind of everything within that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I lived in Mexico this year for 6 months, and I think it was because of the people was a huge impact that I met there and I knew there. But that was a brilliant experience. So I had a lot of like-minded business friends there, and then also kind of more personal friends where we just go and have fun and socialise, So having that balance with the sun, the beach, the training there was great. And then just being in the space where that's when I started doing like a lot of meditation, a lot of journaling, all of that together. I've never felt that happy before in my life, and it was like, it was an incredible experience. And I was like, I always was thinking like, when's this going to end? But it didn't until obviously I left Mexico. So it was Mexico for me was incredible. I also enjoyed Bali a lot. I lived there a few years ago for a couple of months, and that was a great like health focused place to be as well. It's just a bit not as developed as other parts where I've lived, so but a great experience too.
Where do you want to, where's somewhere that obviously we're at the time of filming now, the end of 2021, where is one place that you'd like to kind of visit and experience next year?
Somewhere I haven't been, or
somewhere that you haven't been, yeah.
Well, pandemic depending.
Yeah.
I really want to go to Australia because I've never been there, and I feel like from what I know of Australia, I feel like I kind of fit, like those are the things I like. And it'll fit in quite well, I feel like, so I'd love to experience Australia for sure.
Yeah, sick. I've never been there either, and a good buddy of mine lives in Melbourne and has done for about 7 years. And he's like, this is the best country in the world, mate. We're just so far away from all the other politics, and just kind of, which is a bad thing and a good thing. The fact they're so far away. That's
my concern with Australia, is like it's kind of a bubble, I guess, because it's just away from everything, right? But I've had friends who've moved there and never come back because it's just so brilliant. So it's. Yeah, I'd love to experience it.
Yeah, and we're doing that, mate. One for the list. But I know that you've spent a lot of time in a lot of different places, and also networking pretty hard, as well as both in the paradigm and in the construct of formal business mastermind groups that we've spoken about, but also just through getting to know different other kind of business leaders and other kind of thought leaders in other industries, also a lot of young guys that are running successful online brands. Obviously, you don't kind of have to name names, but what would you say are some of the lessons that you've learned from some of those guys from industries that have nothing to do with fashion, but that you've been like, man, that's just so helpful for kind of for business and life in general?
One of the most life-changing experiences in groups I've been part of is Multiple Club. I joined that a year ago, actually, and they really taught me. How they teach is very like, you have a lot of the self-growth and development work, and then you have like the business work. And that just was insane to they look at the person first and like then the business, they call it EV, enterprise value, and IV, interpersonal value, and building up the areas of your life like relationships, spiritually and physically, alongside professionally. That just changed the game for me when I started focusing in those areas too. I guess it has come to me naturally with like the physical and then the business, but relationships and spiritually, I may not be where I want to be. When I did start pouring energy into that consistently, it just changed like who I am and how I view things. And so that was a massive kind of growth experience. And I mean, one of my other mentors mentioned like usually a person or an experience that happens before a massive growth curve. Like you'll meet someone or you'll go through an event and then you experience a massive growth, and that's what happened. It's happened on a number of occasions, so I think it's very true.
So, well, that's amazing that they go into as much detail. It's not just a purely soulless corporate thing at all. Then it's like this. It's a huge kind of holistic approach, an all-encompassing, like comprehensive, holistic approach that kind of covers everything.
Even like the other week when I was in Vegas at a business conference, and I went to dinner with one of my mentors, and the conversation, obviously we were talking about business, but then half the conversation was also about the personal side of like struggling through stuff as an entrepreneur. And that, like those topics we're talking about there alone, just like gave me so much peace and clarity to then double down on my business. So it's kind of looking at it as a whole rather than like work, and so it's very true.
If there was some like crazy sliding doors moment all those years ago when you decided to start Tailored Athlete and to start kind of surveying those guys outside the gym, and you didn't do that, so if in some parallel universe everything was exactly the same but you didn't proceed with Tailored Athlete, where do you think you'd be now?
I read a book called How to Make Millions Without a Degree before doing that in Loughborough.
Right.
That was a week I dropped out of uni. So from that, I wrote 3 business plans, Tailored Athlete being one of them. So most likely I would have gone down the route of one of those businesses rather than TA. But if none of that happened, I know we've discussed it before. At 16, I went to the Royal Marines Recruitment Office because I was very interested in joining the Marines. And that's actually what then got me into the gym, because their feedback was get your A-levels, get fit and come back as an officer. That's what got me into the gym at 16. And then from there, that's what introduced me to this problem of clothing.
Yeah,
so it's quite funny. That is something I was very, very interested in. And it's more, I think, to the extent of seeing if I want to be tested to the extreme and seeing if I have what it takes, and the camaraderie and the challenge and everything. I think that's what really drew me to that. So I could have gone down that route too.
Sick, bro. We were talking a little bit off air a minute ago about different business ideas and ventures, and one thing I see in you and a couple of other people I know that have built very successful businesses is that, as well as being passionate about that one particular field, the whole kind of principle of entrepreneurship as a whole, and kind of either kind of creating or developing solutions to problems is just something that kind of runs in their blood. So in addition to what you've done with TA, what do you think the future is going to kind of hold for you as an individual in regards to other businesses and other products that aren't related to what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I feel like a lot of people think TA is my one thing and it's going to be that's who Harry is, but like I said, I had 3 business plans when I started, and it's more about business as a whole, like you say, solving problems and making impact. That's what I love. I love kind of new challenge and new ideas. That's what gets me excited every day. So for me, there's plenty of business ideas that I want to pursue, and moving on in the long-term future is kind of being a true entrepreneur and having many successful different businesses and investments. And that's kind of, my long-term plan with everything.
Is to have some of those other products and some of those other companies?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, many different companies and many different investments going on. So
nice. And obviously you've mentioned a couple of times with the multiple club and with different individuals that you've had mentorship. Do you ever see yourself going into a similar paradigm, even if not, obviously it will be kind of monetizable and in exchange for money, I imagine, but not as purely as a way of making profit, but as a way of kind of giving something back to the next generation of young entrepreneurs? Do you see yourself moving into mentorship at some time in the future,
100%.
even if it's 20 years down the line?
100%. I've even started in some aspects, right on a small scale. Because when I was 18, I was just desperate for someone to show me. I was just willing to work. I just wanted to be shown what to do.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of be that person for those people starting out. And some of the best mentors I have just been people further down the line with me that have just really wanted to help me and help me get through all the challenges. And that's been unpaid, and it's been the most impactful kind of mentor. Some of them have been the most impactful mentors I've had. So I'd 100% love to get into that longer term.
Yeah, nice, wicked. Mate, it is nearly 8:30. I'm hungry. I imagine you're hungry as well. We're going to grab some dinner. Thank you so much for your time, bro.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
Thank you, viewers. Bye-bye.